All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. In a moment, we will be providing an update in the investigation into the 1984 disappearance of Mary Ann Bagenstos from her home in Peckway Township. Before I get to the details, please allow me to introduce those that are with me today. From the Pennsylvania State Police, which is the main investigative agency. This will be from my right to left. I have Captain Robert Wagner, Sergeant John Colarusso. Then we have ADA Mark Fetterman and ADA Christine Wilson will be the two assigned prosecutors in the case. Next to me, I have Trooper Chad Roberts and Trooper Brian McNally, who were the affiants on the criminal complaint. And then Lieutenant Bill Donahue and Lieutenant Adam Reed, also from the Pennsylvania State Police. Today, the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office and the Pennsylvania State Police are here to announce that homicide charges have been filed relating to the 1984 disappearance of Mary Ann Bagenstos. 67-year-old Jerry Bagenstos of the 100 block of West Willow Road in Peckway Township has now been charged with the murder of his estranged wife 38 years after her disappearance. Bagenstos was arrested earlier this morning. It was without incident. He is charged with 1 count of criminal homicide, and he is incarcerated at Lancaster County Lancaster County Prison with no bail. I would remind everyone at this time that he is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. An arrest in this 38-year-old case has certainly been long awaited, and we will talk to you in a minute about the details of the overall investigation, but you will not hear that DNA led to the arrest in this case. Rather, the arrest of Jerry Bagenstos reflects decades of hard work and dedication by law enforcement personnel beginning in 1984 with members of the Peckway Township Police Department and continuing with numerous criminal investigators in the Pennsylvania State Police leading up to the present day. It was their dedication to the pursuit of justice, their willingness to commit resources to this investigation, combined with the review and analysis of the evidence gathered in this decades-long investigation by attorneys in my office that culminated in and led to the arrest today. Mary Ann Bagenstos disappeared from her home in Peckway Township on June 5th, 1984. At that time, the 25-year-old mother lived at the West Willow Road residence with a male roommate and her 2-year-old son, who was the child of Jerry Bagenstos. Mary Ann and Jerry were legally married, but the two had been separated, and Jerry was living at his parents' house in Lancaster at the time. Mary Ann had recently filed for and been awarded temporary custody of their 2-year-old child. Mary Ann was described as a devoted mother to her 2-year-old son, who people say she would have never left behind. Temporary custody had been granted to Mary Ann in April 1984, a month before her disappearance. A hearing on the temporary custody order was upcoming and scheduled for June 15th, 1984, 10 days after Mary Ann disappeared. Leading up to the day of her disappearance, Mary Ann was reported to be in a good mood. On June 4th, 1984, the day before she disappeared, witnesses relayed that she was looking forward to getting a new car with Jerry on the next day, which would be Tuesday, June 5. She was even seen on the evening of June 4th cleaning out her car in preparation to trade it in. Jerry Bagenstos was the last person to see Mary Ann Bagenstos alive on Tuesday, June 5th, 1984. No one has seen or heard from Mary Ann in the 38 years since that day. Searches of law enforcement, federal, and open source databases produced negative results for any contact with Mary Ann. There has been no activity on her Social Security card or credit. No evidence that she established residency in any other state or location. There was no evidence that she packed belongings for a trip or to leave for any period of time. The database searches, combined with what we know about her at the time and the length of time she has been gone, leads us to the conclusion that she is deceased. And I should say that it leads us to that conclusion despite the fact that her body has never been recovered. On the day that Mary Ann disappeared, employment record obtained from Bagenstos' job, Jerry Bagenstos' job, reflected that he had an unexcused absence from work, meaning he was off and failed to call in or report in any manner. Mary Ann was not reported missing until June 7th, 1984, not by Jerry, but by her mother, who had become concerned when she learned that Mary Ann had not been heard from in 2 days and was without her son. Police interviewed Jerry on June 7th at the house on West Willow Road, where he now took up residence. Jerry told officers that he came to the house that day to work on Mary Ann's car. He said he had errands to run and took their son with him. When he arrived back at the house around lunchtime, he said he found a note from Mary Ann saying that she walked to the Turkey Hill in Willow Street. Mary Ann's car remained at the house at that time. Jerry told the officer he threw the note in the trash that was near the garage. The officer then searched all 3 bags of trash that were present, but did not find any such note. Based on his statement to law enforcement that the note said she walked to Turkey Hill, law enforcement, heavily investigated whether anyone saw Mary Ann at the Turkey Hill or walking to the Turkey Hill. Motorists, working linemen, the manager of the Turkey Hill who worked that day all said they had not seen Mary Ann or anyone that resembled Mary Ann. Police also interviewed Mary Ann's neighbor, who told authorities that on June 5th, she returned home from work a little after 1:30 p.m. and saw Jerry in the backyard hanging up wash, including clothing and 1 or 2 blankets. The neighbor told police that she had never seen Jerry at the residence at this time of day before, nor had she ever seen him doing laundry prior to that day. In the days following Mary Ann's disappearance, Jerry was observed to have an unexplained injury on his arm that was covered by a bandage. On June 8th of 1984, an officer from the Pequay Township Police Department spoke with Jerry again at the West Willow Road address. During a check of the garage area, the officer observed a piece of cardboard lying on what was described as freshly dug dirt. Upon lifting the cardboard, he observed a digging area that had been filled with loose dirt that measured approximately 3 feet by 5 feet. Based on these observations, law enforcement executed a search warrant on June 13th of 1984 to look for the body of Mary Ann Bagenstos and the note allegedly left by Mary Ann. The dirt floor in the garage was excavated, but no body was found. The hole was reopened to the point where the dirt had become solid again. It measured 3 by 6 feet and was approximately 5 feet deep. While the hole was being dug, Jerry Bagenstos asked whether police found a shell casing in the dirt because he had recently shot a handgun in the area some time ago. During the search warrant, Jerry now told police that he came to take Mary Ann to look at a car. He said that Mary Ann was not ready to go, so he took his son to Long's Park to feed the ducks. He said they returned around lunchtime, and that is when he found the note. Seized during the execution of that search warrant was a crumpled, handwritten note and a wooden nail keg beside the couch in the living room that said, "Had to run an errand, be right back." Jerry told officers that day that the note that Mary Ann left, in fact, did not say she walked to Turkey Hill, but that he only assumed that that is where she went. The custody hearing for Mary Ann's 2-year-old son was held in June. Of course, Mary Ann failed to appear at the hearing, and permanent custody was awarded to Jerry Bagenstos. Jerry Bagenstos spoke to police a number of times during the initial investigation and throughout the years as different investigators looked at the case. Jerry provided numerous inconsistent statements to police in the initial and ongoing investigation. He provided inconsistent statements as to why he was at the house on the morning of June 5th, 1984. He provided inconsistent statements as to what Mary Ann was doing upon his arrival and where he went prior to returning to the West Willow Road address. He provided inconsistent statements regarding what the note said that was purportedly left behind by Mary Ann Bagenstos, and about how and where he injured himself at the time of her disappearance. He also provided numerous inconsistent statements as to why he was digging a hole the size of what would be a human grave in the garage 3 days after Mary Ann disappeared. In 1998, further investigation, the Pennsylvania State Police sent Bagenstos a postcard purportedly from Mary Ann. Investigators confirmed that he did receive the postcard, but he never reported this to any law enforcement. In late 2018, the Pennsylvania State Police discussed this case with the District Attorney's Cold Case Unit that had recently been formed under former DA Stedman. And both the Pennsylvania State Police and the District Attorney's Office began to take another look at the case. In mid-2020, investigators began to focus on the note that was seized in the 1984 search warrant that purportedly corroborated that Mary Ann had left the house. Investigators with the state police began to search for handwriting samples of Jerry Bagenstos in order to have laboratory analysis completed to determine authorship of the crumpled note found and seized during the execution of the warrant. Online and open source databases were searched, and public records and other documents containing Bagenstos' writing were obtained. And this initial data and evidence led to the application of a search warrant for the West Willow Road residence where Jerry Bagenstos still resided. That search warrant was executed recently by the Pennsylvania State Police on September 20th of 2022, and investigators seized numerous items containing the writing of the suspect. These documents were then submitted to a document examiner with the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Forensic Services, who compared the handwriting on the note seized by police in the 1984 warrant with the handwriting contained on the items seized by police in September of 2022. The examiner concluded that the note recovered by the police in June 13th, 1984, was in fact written by Jerry Bagenstos. Now, that was a lot of information. We will have copies of our release. In addition to the release, we've attached the affidavit of probable cause, and there's even more information contained in that. But before I turn it over to the state police for comments, I want to specifically thank Troopers Roberts and McNally and Corporal McCurdy, who is not here today, who were instrumental in this case moving forward, as well as the other investigators in the state police in Pequea Township who have dedicated countless hours and efforts into this case, as well as my staff in the District Attorney's Office, particularly ADA Wilson, who was extremely eager to work on this case after the meeting in 2018. This is just the beginning of the criminal process in a 38-year-old case, and we hope it brings relief to family and friends of Mary Ann, and we will certainly do everything we can to see that justice is served in this case. At this time, I want to turn it over to Lieutenant Reed from the Pennsylvania State Police.
Thank you, District Attorney Adams. My name is Lieutenant Adam Reed. I'm the Director of the Communications Office with the Pennsylvania State Police. As District Attorney Adams said, we're here today to announce justice for Mary Ann and her family. In just a few short days, we'll all be fortunate enough to be spending the Christmas holiday with those we love. But Mary Ann's family was not afforded that opportunity 38 years ago. Thanks to the hard, diligent work of numerous Pennsylvania State Police investigators, Pequea Township Police Department, and the Office of the Lancaster County District Attorney, we can now say the person responsible for Mary Ann's death will now answer for it. A common thread among a lot of the cold case prosecution announcements and updates I've been a part of is the determination shown by investigators. In a case like this spanning nearly 40 years, the investigative efforts span the careers of multiple investigators, both from the District Attorney's Office, the Pennsylvania State Police, and local police. The case file might grow, but so does the dedication of law enforcement to bring these cases to a close. That's what we've seen here in the Mary Ann Bagenstos investigation. As you read over the affidavit afterwards and other facets of the investigation come to light, you'll see collaborative efforts between our Troop J Major Case Criminal Investigation Team, which includes the Troop J Crime Unit and its investigators, and the Troop J Criminal Investigation Assessment, or CIA, officer, and our forensic laboratory personnel. Complex long-term investigations like this are undoubtedly a team effort. Our criminal investigation assessment officers' jobs are to review and assist with investigations being handled by their respective troop. They work to analyze homicides, sexual assaults, and other death investigations occurring in the troop when CIA analysis might be beneficial to the investigative team. One of the top priorities is assisting with homicides and cold case investigations like we've seen here. Additionally, our Bureau of Forensic Services is a key resource not only to PSP, but to other law enforcement agencies across the Commonwealth. That's what we've seen here. Within BFS, or our Bureau of Forensic Services, is our questioned documents section, which is what District Attorney Adams mentioned here and what you'll see in the affidavit. The questioned documents does a great job after undergoing years of training in providing handwriting analysis, ink examinations, or examinations of documents that may be charred or destroyed. And certainly in this case, the question document section played a key role in bringing these charges about to us. In conclusion, we at the Pennsylvania State Police would like to thank Lancaster County DA's office, Peckaway Township Police, and all of the current and former retired PSP and local police investigators over almost the last 40 years. Justice would not have been brought for Marianne if it wasn't for everyone's collective efforts. Thank you, everyone, and I'll turn it back over to District Attorney Adams.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be happy to take questions at this time. Dan?
Heather, what is different now than all the evidence that was there then? And I know none of you people were around then, but it just seems like it's the same. Were there advancements in handwriting analysis or something? Or changes in
Well,
law that you thought we can bring this now?
If essentially, I think you're asking why now, or why now. So I can say that with respect to the handwriting specifically, so that note was in custody, but it wasn't until investigators that had the desire to rework this case and really dust off the file and look at what was necessary to move this case forward. It was at that point where they started to focus on the note. And because of the advancements in open source databases and internet searches, they were able to do the initial retrieval of signatures and perhaps other words that he would have wrote on legal documents and such. So the advancements in technology did make that initial search easier, yes. And then from that is where we applied for and received the search warrant. Does that answer your question?
Not really. I mean, just if you look at it in retrospect, it seems like there was so much circumstantial evidence there pointing to that it might have been enough to
Sure,
charge
okay.
back then.
Okay. So why not then is what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I can say this. I mean, I can't go back and speak for anyone that was looking at the case at that time. But again, keep in mind this is a no-body homicide prosecution. At that time, which would have been the mid-'80s, no-body homicide prosecutions were very rare. They're still rare to this day, in fact. I think I saw statistics that since 1830 in the United States until about 2015, there's been a little bit more than 500 no-body prosecutions. When you look at the fact that in 2021, there was approximately 20,000 murders in the United States alone, you can see just how rare that they are. At that time, since that time, training in no-body prosecutions, both in the attorney circles and law enforcement circles, there's been a lot of development in that area of the law. However, and again, I can't speak for anyone that looked at this case at that time. However, it would not be unreasonable to conclude in the mid-'80s that if the body was missing and if there was some hope that something was going to break and the body was going to be recovered, it wouldn't have been unreasonable at the time, given how rare no-body prosecutions were, to wait and see whether you would recover a body, because obviously the recovery of the body would give more evidence to any prosecution. Here, the delay in time helps us in one aspect, because it certainly makes proving that she's dead circumstantially. That's exactly what you have to do in a no-body homicide prosecution, is you still have to prove that someone died, and you have to do that circumstantially because we don't have the body. And the length of time that she's been gone actually helps us in that effort.
Can you talk at all about the family's reaction and response to the resurgence of the cold case investigation and now coming to this?
So I can. I know we made arrangements to contact Marianne's son to inform him of the development of the investigation, but I do not have an update on that, nor would I especially feel comfortable unless that person wanted me to relay anything.
But you have contacted him.
He has been contacted,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
How gratifying is it, if at all, for you personally and for those you're standing with, to be able to bring closure in this case, to know that Marianne has justice?
Yeah, so it's just the beginning, obviously, but, you know, these cases are always, there's always some part of these cases that really touch on you, and I think here it's the fact that, you know, she was the mother of a 2-year-old boy, and that particularly affected me. But I can tell you, like, this is what we do. We seek justice in these types of cases, and to finally, after 38 years, be able to work this case that we felt we could file charges and prove the charges that we were filing, yes, it's incredibly meaningful, and I know that goes for everyone up here. Any other questions?
I didn't understand the part about the 1998 note. Could you explain that?
Postcard?
Yeah.
Oh, the postcard. So an investigative technique, right? So the police troopers actually generated a postcard purportedly to be from Marianne, sent it to Jerry. Again, we haven't talked in detail about this, but an investigative tool to try to provoke something new in the investigation. They were able to confirm that he did receive the postcard, but again, never reported that to police. The idea being, if she's still alive, perhaps he'd want to make somebody aware of that.
Can you speak at all about his reaction, response to, you know, opening up this investigation, serving the search warrant in September, and this morning charging him with this?
So I can. I mean, you will see when you get the affidavit that he spoke to police on numerous times over the years. But once he's in custody, a Fifth Amendment or right attaches, and it would be inappropriate to make any comment on that. Okay. Thank you all for coming.